When it comes to subcompact SUVs, the Subaru Crosstrek is the most popular choice here in America. In fact, remember, this vehicle started out as an experiment for Subaru, and since then, this has grown to become their best-selling model, with Subaru saying they've sold about 1 million units in the last 11 years that the Crosstrek has been on the market. So as you can see, for 2024, there's an all-new version of the Crosstrek, and today, we're actually out here on this mountain just outside of Woodstock, New York, to drive the 2024 Crosstrek Sport. This model here has the bigger 2.5-liter naturally aspirated engine that delivers up to 182 horsepower, about 30 more versus the premium that we drove a couple of months ago. So this time Subaru has set up an off-road course. We're going to drive it out on the road, and we're going to find out, has the additional power of the 2.5 engine succeeded in making this Crosstrek a little bit closer to a Crosstrek WRX? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the all-new styling for the 2024 Crosstrek, I want to pop the hood and show you guys the powertrain. Because remember, 2 months ago, we were actually out in Palm Springs where we drove the base premium model that had the smaller 2-liter engine. This is the choice that I suspect most buyers are going to end up with. This is the bigger 2.5-liter naturally aspirated boxer flat 4 with direct injection. This engine produces 182 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. That's about 2 more pound-feet of torque versus the previous generation, and this model here has about 30 more horsepower and 33 more pound-feet of torque versus the base 2-liter. The reason why the 2-liter came out first was because Subaru says that model, so the base and premium, is built in Japan. This model here is built at their plant in Indiana. So this is a US-built car. It all goes out through a Lineartronic CVT, their latest version. There is no more manual available, and you'll get the 2.5 on the sport trim and the top-of-the-line limited. Fuel economy is actually pretty much the same as the 2-liter, 26 in the city, 33 on the highway. That's 1 less in city and highway versus the 2-liter, but the combined rating is also 29, so it's the same MPG. This runs on regular gas. It has a 16.6-gallon gas tank, so Subaru says it has best-in-class range of around 450 miles. And you can also put regular in it. They don't quote a 0 to 60 time, but we got 10 seconds in the 2-liter. We'll see what we can get out in the real world with this model here with the additional power. Towing capacity sits at around 1,500 pounds. If you guys want more towing capacity, you'll have to wait for the Crosstrek Wilderness, which can tow up to 3,500 pounds. We'll be driving that later on this year in September. And in terms of the curb weight, this weighs about 50 pounds more than the 2-liter at just under 3,400 pounds. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here, which as you can see is held up by a prop rod, and talk about the exterior styling, because just like the premium version, the front end of this car is instantly recognizable as a Crosstrek. You can see you have the latest version of their hexagonal grille. However, the grille has gotten so big where it doesn't really need the border anymore. Subaru says that this kind of frameless look is what they're heading toward with their new design direction. All Crosstreks, even the base version, have the steering adaptive LED headlights, which is a segment exclusive. Typically, you don't even have LEDs on some models, and then the base and up trims, or the premium and up trims, are going to have these LED fog lights. The Sport, as you can see, has these yellow accents, which you'll find it here on the bumper. There's also a lot of cladding. There's also different styling cues on the Wilderness. And then if you guys go for the Limited, you won't have this yellow accent. I particularly think the yellow looks good in certain colors. This is dark sapphire blue, which is a new color this year. It looks good with the blue, but if you look at it on some colors, I think the yellow can be a little bit much. But I'm also confused because on the Sport trim, on the Forester, Subaru does an orange trim. So on this model, they decided to go with yellow. But looking at the rest of the profile of this vehicle, you can see it's built off of Subaru Global Product Architecture. So it's a little bit stiffer, about 10% stiffer, and the overall length is pretty much the same. It's got a 105-inch long wheelbase, 176 inches long overall. This is about the same size as every other vehicle in this segment. In terms of the fenders, these are now aluminum, which Subaru says helped them save some weight. And then the Sport, you can see, comes with these 18-inch wheels, which are kind of like a black finish to them. They're riding on a 225 55 R18 tires. The premium that I showed you guys a couple months ago had a 17-inch wheel. The Limited has an 18-inch wheel that's the same design. Subaru says this kind of resembles gears on a bike, because as you guys know, Subaru owners tend to like to do that kind of activity. However, on the Limited, you have a black and a machine two-tone look. You have 8.7 inches of ground clearance, which is standard across the board. If you want more ground clearance, the Wilderness offers up to 9.3, which again, we'll be driving later on. The Sport trim also includes this Sport badge here with more of the yellow accents. You'll get a black painted side mirror here with integrated turn signals. The Limited and Premium will have a gray painted mirror. And then Subaru says the roof rails here, they are pretty much there for design and to be functional. They're not the aerodynamic kind, so you can actually put a roof rack, you can put a roof tent on this vehicle. You can get an optional sunroof, which this model has for an extra $2,000 as part of a package. Subaru does not offer a panoramic roof, so kind of keep that in mind. Over here you can see the cladding, I think, is tasteful, although some of you may say that the cladding in the front can be a little bit too much. And then looking at the rear, you can see the design's pretty much the same, although you do have some unique aspects here with the sport trim. You have the sport badge, more of the yellow accents, no visible exhaust tips, but you can see the rear bumper has a slightly more aggressive look. You can see the taillights incandescent, but you do have some LED combination for the taillight and the brake light, but the turn signal and the reverse light appear to be incandescent. All Crosstreks come with a rear wiper, which Subaru says some competitors don't even have. And then if you want to open up the cargo area, this vehicle doesn't offer a power tailgate. That's the one thing I wish it did have. The release is right there in the center. So even on the limited trim, you can't get a power liftgate. I kind of wish that they offered that on the high trim, but you get just under 20 cubic feet of storage space. If you fold down the back seat, that'll actually expand the cargo area to around 54.7 cubic feet. So among the highest in the segment, obviously you're gonna find more in something like the Forester or the Outback, but this is still a very practical vehicle. This rubberized floor mat you can see on the back here kind of resembles waves and mountains to kind of go with the outdoorsy theme. And then Crosstreks all come with a temporary spare tire. I suspect the Wilderness will get a full-size spare, but we'll know once we drive that vehicle in a few months. So moving into the interior of the Crosstrek Sport, you can see, just like the Premium that I showed you a few months ago, this has a huge upgrade in terms of tech, but the Sport also has some different styling cues here to let you know you're in a Sport. Let me first go ahead and shut the door. The door has a nice solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built on the global product architecture. Now, here's the key fob for the vehicle. You can see the Premium and up trims, I believe, are going to come with their intelligent access key where you have lock, unlock. It looks like you can actually pop the trunk, but remember, this is not a power liftgate, so it's probably just going to pop it and then you have to manually open it yourself. But the start-stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. When you turn the vehicle on, you can hear it has that typical Subaru chime. And then the Premium and up trims are going to have the big 11.6-inch display. This is the largest display in the segment, Subaru says, and it also includes, as you can see, wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. The software behind it could use an upgrade. It's a little bit laggy and slow when I first start the vehicle up, but once it's there, you can see the screen does look pretty nice. Now, I want to mention the seats in this vehicle because the seats on the Sport, these are specific to the model. It's a cloth sport seat with, you can see, kind of like, this almost looks like the Mercedes three-pointed star emblem, but this is unique to the Sport with the yellow accents and the contrasting stitching. I have a 10-way power driver's seat on my side here, which is part of an option package. It also includes two-way lumbar, adjustable lumbar, which is a Crosstrek first. That'll help, again, get the seats more comfortable. Subaru says they also redesigned the seats to be more comfortable, and the rails of the seats are now bolted directly to the actual chassis as opposed to having like a separate bolt that it used to bolt to, so it gives you a more sturdy feel. In terms of the rest of the dash and the door panels, you can see the door has this kind of same fabric material with the yellow accents. It's hard touch plastic over here. There's some imitation carbon fiber look on the door panel along with some yellow contrasting stitching. There's padded area where you'd rest your elbows, and then both the front windows are one-touch auto up-down. The rears are not automatic one-touch. So I kind of wish Subaru had made that one touch, but it's kind of on their lower end. The passenger seat here is also a four-way manual. Over here on the steering wheel, you can see the steering wheel is basically the same as the other Crosstreks, but you do have the yellow stitching. I like how it's leather wrapped. It has paddles on the wheel. It has your controls for your Subaru EyeSight, which now has 3 cameras. This vehicle comes standard with adaptive cruise control, which is pretty nice. The wheel itself has a manual tilt and telescoping ability, so you can get pretty comfortable in this vehicle. The horn, it sounds good. It sounds pretty much what I expected for a vehicle of this size. You have a display here that has like a small 3.5-inch digital display with traditional analog speedo and tach. Subaru still does not do a fully digital display. I'm hoping they introduce that for the next generation of vehicles. But again, you kind of have to set your expectations for a price point. The rest of the dash you can see on the Sport, it's a little bit dark colors for me, but this is the only color you can get. You have a soft touch material here. This is hard touch, more of that imitation carbon fiber trim, which kind of, again, looks pretty similar to all the other Subarus with the way this 11.6-inch screen is oriented. The difference with the Sport model is you do now have the dual mode X mode function. So you have, in addition to normal snow and dirt, you also have deep snow and mud, which again takes the off-road capability up a notch with this model, which this will also be on the Wilderness version as well. The rest of the display here, you can see if you want embedded GPS, you cannot get it on this Sport. You have to go for the Limited and get the optional upgrade package for it. Put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your backup camera with trajectory and distance markers, but no 360 camera or front camera. Subaru doesn't offer that on the Crosstrek like they do on some of their other models. Over here on the center stack, you can see now there's a wireless phone charging pad here, which is standard on the sport trims, which is nice. My phone pretty much fits here very nicely. You have two USB charging ports, an aux port, a traditional shifter here for the CVT. You have your heated seats with two-way heated seats, no cooled seats on this vehicle. And then you have a new electronic parking brake that frees up space here in the center console for better cup holders. Power outlet over here. Then you can see this is a nice padded area here. If you open this up, it's actually a pretty deep size center console, so the storage in this vehicle is pretty good. In terms of the glove box, you can see it's damped but not lined with felt. It's actually a pretty good bin style. There is no auto dimming rearview mirror on this trim, but you can get it on the Limited, and you can get it as a dealer accessory. The map lighting here also isn't LED, but you can change that out through a dealer accessory. You have a standard sunroof here, which as you can see has a manual shade. Headroom space is pretty good. In terms of the interior feeling here, it feels pretty much the same in terms of roominess, but as you can see, with the upgrade in tech, it's certainly nice, but if you guys want leather seats, the Sport doesn't offer leather. You have to go for the Limited trim, and that'll get you the leather seats. So let's go ahead and check out the back seat of the new Crosstrek. For a vehicle that's this small, Subaru actually gives people a lot of space in the back seat. You have around 36.5 inches of legroom. You can see when you get in and shut the door. The space back here for somebody my height, I'm 5'7", there's a pretty decent amount of headroom. The legroom here is also pretty good. There is a fairly large hump here, so the center passenger is going to get shafted if you do need to fit 3 across. There's 2 USB charging ports, an A and a C. No rear seat air vents. I don't think the Limited has that either. You have 1 storage pocket, and then the materials back here are hard touch plastic. I was kind of hoping Subaru would have wrapped this area in the same cloth material that we see in the front, but it is padded down here, at least where your elbows would rest. No heated rear seats, and then there's also an armrest here that folds down, gives you 2 cup holders. So overall, if you actually need to put adults back here, you can do so, but I imagine if you're over 6 foot, you might find the headroom space to be a little bit lacking. So here we are back in the 2024 Subaru Crosstrek, and this time we're on the other end of the country. We were in Palm Springs for the base 2-liter. Now we're here in upstate New York with the 2.5. Now Subaru says that the 2.5 and 2-liter, roughly the take rate is 50-50. The fuel economy is pretty much the same, but you get an extra 30 horsepower. So we're in the sport model here. Let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60 wise in this vehicle, because we got about 10 seconds in the sport or in the base version. I have it in sport mode. It's got all-wheel drive, it's got a CVT, and foot is to the floor. Let's see. All right, 8.7 seconds, which is actually what Rob predicted it would probably do. I was thinking it would be closer to 8.
It felt stronger though at higher speeds, like it didn't die off.
Yeah, so there's definitely a little bit extra punch here. I mean, you're gonna feel the extra 30 horsepower and the extra 33 pound-feet of torque. If there's another opportunity, we might do another 0 to 60 sprint, but it's basically got the extra power that you want. Now, is this the quickest in the segment? No. The Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid is faster. The Mazda CX-30 Turbo is faster, but Subarus haven't really always been known for like quickest acceleration. This is going to be enough power for most people. The sport model in general doesn't necessarily have any suspension upgrades to make it sportier. It just looks sportier, but it's not actually sportier to drive. But the new Crosstrek is a lot more refined. They've increased the torsional rigidity by 10%. They've added more sound deadening material. We've got redesigned seats. It's got that new dual-pinion power steering from the WRX, so you get a much more refined drive. The engine also is less noisy. The engine in the previous generation, you put your foot down, it would just be droning like crazy. This model here, it's not quite as loud. I mean, I have to drive the two back to back to really get a gauge to see how much quieter it is. But you definitely notice how much more refined it is. And that's gonna be good for those of you who plan to do a lot of road trips in your Crosstrek. Subaru is very proud of the fact that the range of this vehicle is also, they claim it's around 450 miles because of the large fuel tank. But when you do longer road trips, you're gonna want a more comfortable vehicle overall. The fenders are now aluminum. They also put these new vents along the fenders, which Subaru says makes this vehicle more resistant to crosswinds. I'm not entirely sure if that's true, but you definitely get a sense that this car kind of goes down the road with more more of a premium feel. It has less noise, although we do hear a little bit of wind noise, although it could be a slightly more windier day outside. But overall, I do like how this car drives. It's easy to drive. You can see out of it very well. The CVT is responsive. The engine is torquey. It has pretty good power. if I would criticize it, I mean, for a sport trim, I wish it was a little sportier, but you're gonna end up buying the Impreza if you want the actual sportier feeling, because this has that raised suspension with 8.7 inches of ground clearance. We're not driving the Wilderness on this event. We'll be driving that sometime in September. But I'd say, you know, for the model that'll probably end up accounting for about 25% of total sales, this is definitely going to appeal to a lot of people. I mean, just like the previous generation, this car is just a really easy car to live with on a daily basis. And I also really appreciate the new cloth seats in this sport trim. They feel really durable, but they also feel comfortable, and it's really nicely padded. You have heated seats, which Subaru also says they have improved the heater response of the heated seats, so it's even better. This model does lack a heated steering wheel. I don't think any Crosstrek offers that, but you do have heated windshield wipers, which is good for, again, people who live up in the Northeast or Pacific Northwest, which we happen to be in. But overall, out on the road here, you get a sense that the Crosstrek is basically, it feels just like an Impreza that's lifted. It feels like a car, and that's what makes this vehicle super appealing. But let me see here if I can just get another quick 0 to 60. I don't know if we have enough road to get to 60, but let's see. It holds the revs there when you're, okay, 7.94 there.
Huge difference.
That is a huge difference. So my guess is back there on the first stretch, we were on a more uphill incline. And versus this one, it's a little bit downhill. So let's just say in the low 8-second range, but we'll retest one when we get one back home for a full week where I can actually do more extensive fuel economy testing. But 7.9 is certainly respectable. Now, do I wish Subaru would offer a turbo model? Absolutely. They would totally do well if they did a Crosstrek WRX with the 2.4 turbo from the Ascent, or like a hybrid version. That's the one thing that this generation is missing, is a hybrid. Of course, you know, you can't, I want to ask Subaru that, but the standard PR answer is we don't talk about future product. So for those of you who have the current plug-in hybrid Crosstrek, there is nothing to replace that model for you just yet. But I suspect Subaru is working on a hybrid system. I mean, they could easily pull something from Toyota because Toyota, again, owns about 25%, I think, of Subaru in general. So they could easily just borrow the hybrid tech from Toyota, and it would be a really great option if this Equinox could also stay on the road. But overall, just driving the vehicle out in these types of roads, it is a nice driving car on the road. But Subaru, of course, has some off-roading set up for us. So let's go ahead and cue over to that and see how the sport model handles more rugged terrain. So now that we've gotten some time in the new Crosstrek Sport out on the road, Subaru has set up this little off-road trail for us to drive up this mountain called Plate Kill Mountain. It's actually like a ski slope, and they set up this off-road course. And unlike the Premium that we drove a couple months ago, that only had just an X mode, just a one-stage X mode. And this has dual function X mode, so they actually had us put it into like a deep snow and mud mode, which I don't particularly think is necessary for this terrain, but we're kind of just still driving up the mountain right now. In this mode, it tells the software basically to allow more wheel slippage to send power faster to the wheel that actually has grip. And it also includes downhill assist control when you're going downhill, so it kind of gives you like an off-road cruise control. It'll hold the speed at a low speed so you don't fall off the mountain. But overall, with 8.7 inches of ground clearance, the Crosstrek is definitely one of the more capable small SUVs. In fact, Subaru says roughly 30% of Crosstrek owners actually plan to take their vehicles off-roading, and this is probably a little more than the type of off-roading they would do. I mean, I would say most Subaru owners probably end up on gravel roads, but this is not super challenging. But you can see it's a pretty steep slope, and we are on kind of like this muddy surface. It's been raining here in upstate New York for the past couple of days, so hopefully we encounter a little bit of mud. But what I notice is the suspension soaks up the bumps nicely. The Crosstrek Wilderness is going to be the one that you're going to want to get if you want to do some more challenging off-roading, because it has 9.3 inches of ground clearance, but no skid plates on this model, so you do have to be a little more mindful when you're encountering some rocks and some boulders. But what I love about the Crosstrek is the smaller size. This vehicle is the smallest SUV in the Subaru portfolio, and you can kind of just maneuver this vehicle in tight city streets, and then when you're on those tighter trails, it also does a really great job of just kind of fitting through smaller areas that you probably wouldn't want to push an Outback through. So we actually did come up on a more challenging part of this off-road trail where there's a lot of mud, and I decided to let Rob drive because he enjoys he enjoys this kind of stuff, and it also gives me more of a chance to kind of talk and make sure I don't drive us off a mountain because we really are at the very top of a mountain, a ski slope mountain. But we've got the car in the deep snow and mud, and as you can see, we're starting to approach this downhill area. It is definitely muddy. From all the rain, so
we're going sideways. Not on purpose.
Yes. So I think this is the part where they said immediately go left or you're going to start sliding forward into the Forester in front of us.
Hill descent control is doing what it's supposed to.
That's
I'm not
good.
touching the brakes.
Yeah, this is some pretty deep mud.
All right.
Okay.
I'm trying. It turns left.
This is where, so this is really going to be a test of the tires as well. And these are not the kind of off-road tires that you'd want for something like this. This is more of a road tire.
Oh yeah.
But it's getting up here. You can see the dual function X mode is allowing for the extra wheel spin. So Rob can actually add a little more throttle. So this is where I guess you do the, oh God, don't kill us, Rob.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
It's not even wet down there anymore. Look, another Subaru. It's braking itself. Yep.
Okay, yeah, no, the off-road cruise control with the dual X mode that basically turns itself on is really helpful for novice people, especially when you're going down some rather steep hills. So I see there's the little thing that says go to the right.
Uh-huh. All right, I'm letting off the brake as of right now.
All right, it's ooh.
Yeah.
Can't do that in your Civic. Oh wow. That is a very, I know you can't really see it very well on camera, but it is a steep slope. Like you can't see over the hood right now. This is where a front camera would be nice.
So they want us to not go through this pit? Didn't look that hard.
Yeah, he said, they said go around that first mud pit.
Get us kicked off Subaru for this program.
Yeah, it is pretty deep for something like this. Oh God, yeah, that is pretty deep for something like this. Ooh, okay. Okay.
We got a little bit of a mud pit coming up.
Yeah, so let's see how hood handles going through this mud pit here. Again, this car is limited by the tires because these are more of a road tire. The Wilderness is going to have more of that all-terrain tire, but wow, just yeah, it just kind of whoa. Uh-oh.
Ready?
You just want to get, okay, oh
hell yeah. There's a mud pit.
Just not the puddle part, don't go through the puddle part. Oh God, that's where skid plates would be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, just don't get us stuck. Oh God, wow, ooh. Oh God. Okay. Wow. Ooh. Oh, shit. Wow. Yeah, that's very impressive. Remember, this is not the Wilderness, and we're on these more street-minded tires, and this thing, it goes through some stuff that I wouldn't expect a Crosstrek to go through. So I have to admit, I'm pretty impressed. So although the Crosstrek may not go to the type of places that you may end up taking like a Jeep Wrangler, I have to say for a little small SUV that basically drives like a taller Impreza, this thing will get through some obstacles and some road surfaces or lack thereof with a lot of confidence and a lot of ease. And overall, if you guys need to do this type of off-roading and you want to get to those better trails off the beaten path, the Crosstrek is certainly going to be able to get you there. So with over 155,000 units sold in 2022, I have no doubt that this all-new Crosstrek will continue to be one of the best-selling models in the Subaru lineup. In fact, this vehicle outsold both the Forester and the Outback, which is really surprising to me. So Subaru has a winner, obviously, with the Crosstrek, which is why they didn't want to mess with the formula too much. And after spending the day driving the Sport trim, I have to say the 2.5-liter engine definitely gives you a little bit more of that power that buyers are going to be wanting. As you guys saw, 0 to 60 in just under 8 seconds is going to be enough for most people. Does this turn it into into a Crosstrek WRX? Sadly, no. I would really like to see Subaru eventually offer the 2.4 liter turbo on this model, and I also would like to see them return the hybrid powertrain, because the hybrid option, even though it didn't have the best range in terms of electric only range and it was expensive, it was at least an electrified option. So Subaru may be working on a Crosstrek hybrid, but let me know in the comment section below if you guys would consider one if Subaru would do another hybrid. But overall, the sport trim definitely has a unique look to it. I'm not sure that the yellow works on certain colors, but it definitely gives it a sportier edge. Subaru says that this trim level in general tends to attract a younger clientele, and also it's a little bit more male, but really Subaru should consider doing a WRX version that'll really attract even more younger buyers and more male buyers. So I think that's something that is definitely space in terms of the lineup. Now, if you guys are looking to buy a vehicle like this, they already are heading to dealerships. And like I said earlier, the Sport and the Limited are built in the USA. And this model here with the 2.5, the base Sport is gonna start at around $28,995. That's about $4,000 more versus the base version. So it's about the same price as the previous generation Crosstrek. This model here with the one option package that it has, the sunroof and then the power driver's seat, this model here comes in at around $32,000 including destination. Keep in mind, if you guys want a limited trim, that's $2,000 more. So a fully loaded version of the Crosstrek is going to be around $34,000, which is actually a pretty affordable price tag, especially when you look at something like a Jeep Compass, which can easily get up to around $42,000. A Ford Bronco Sport can also get around $45,000, which is just ridiculous. Subaru has priced this right, although it does limit you because there are some features like a power liftgate or a panoramic sunroof that you cannot get on a Crosstrek. And again, if you want a turbo or a hybrid option, Subaru does not offer that, sadly. But overall, with that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek in the sport trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.